And if you want to just bunt through life, you're not going to strike out, but you're never going to know the joy and elation of rounding the bases.
And I think it's important to be able to laugh at yourself as well, right? I mean, I think you can't really laugh at someone else or with someone else unless you can laugh at yourself, like creating that kind of safe space.
They want to talk about their stuff that's inappropriate to talk in front of me. So I get that. I think most of the joy will occur without me in the room.
And I guess that little thing of, I used to tell people, like, every time I tell a joke, guaranteed at least one person's going to laugh, and that's me.
And the sole purpose of an experiment is, what can you learn from the experiment?
Any other things that you do to kind of be intentional with creating and cultivating joy?
Look outside my sphere. Just like I find I usually learn the most from things I don't expect.
Welcome to JOY², Live with Joy. This is the podcast where we get to explore the power of joy, purpose, passion, and fun, and how joy, when practiced intentionally, transforms how we live, work, and lead. I'm your host, Greg De Koker, and I believe that when you live with joy, everything gets better, and I mean everything. And this isn't just about feeling good. It's about unlocking joy as a resource, one that fuels better leadership, meaningful work, and thriving lives. Each week, we share the stories, the insights, and the sparks that ignite more joy, because joy is contagious, it's powerful, and it belongs to all of us. So lean in, stay curious, and let's create more joy together. This is JOY², brought to you by Essentia Group. Welcome back to the JOY² Live with Joy podcast. I'm your host, Greg De Koker, and this podcast is where we explore what it really means to live, lead, and show up with joy, not just as a reward, but as an intentional way of being. And I'm really excited about today's guest. Today, I'm joined by someone who truly lives at the intersection of creativity, business, and humanity, Ron Tite. Ron is an entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author who has spent his career blurring the lines between art and commerce. He's been a creative director for some of the world's most respected brands, including Air France, Google, Microsoft, Volvo, Intel, and DoorDash, to name but a few. He's the founder and chief strategy officer of Church and State, co-founder of Group 219, an investor and advisor to Wavy, the culture OS for distributed teams. And somehow, in between all that, he's also produced an award-winning film, Freshwater, hosted and produced an award-winning podcast, The Q, written 3 books, including his latest book, The Purpose of Purpose, written a play, and was the host and executive producer of the award-winning comedy show, Monkey Toast. But here's what stands out to me most about Ron. I first met him years ago through a mutual friend, Jamie Mason Cohen, where I got to experience Ron live on stage and how he filled up the room with his energy, humor, and insight. And more recently, I was reintroduced to Ron through Ben Kawa, and we met for a coffee. And what struck me again was this: Ron is deeply interested in you. He doesn't try to be interesting, even though he very much is. And everyone I know who knows Ron says the same thing: brilliant, humble, funny, and just a great human to be around. And when people now ask me how I'm doing, I say if I was any better, I'd be Ron Tite. So, Ron, thanks so much for saying yes to this conversation. It's really great to have you here.
It would be so great after that incredibly warm and generous introduction is for me to just like drop an F-bomb and be like, "What is this? Who are you? What?"
How did I
Thank you.
get
Like
here?
that's very kind of you.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's great to have you here. It's always great to be in your energy, and you just have this people that I didn't even know knew you. When we talk about you, I'm like, if your name comes into it's always this, like, you can just see the joy. Like, people just love being in your energy. So thanks for sharing it today.
Oh, well,
That's
thank you.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope it translates through
Yeah.
this
No pressure.
the
No pressure.
technology. Yeah, well, the joy depends on everyone's Wi-Fi connection is what it really
Yes,
depends on.
that's right. Hopefully everyone's good to go. Well, with everything you're working on, and I know how busy you are, like with work and personal life and family and kids and your creativity and everything you got going on. What made you say yes, to this conversation? Let's start there.
Well, I think part of joy is being open, to because if you get set in your ways and and you close yourself off from new introductions, from new conversations, from new possibilities, then it's difficult to find joy because you can improve your own situation or your perspective on what you're doing by having access to and seeing and meeting and conversing with other people. So I try and say yes as much as possible just because I get joy out of hearing from other people and talking about stuff.
I love it. I have like 14 other projects in my head right now that I'd love for you to be involved in. So maybe now is the time if you try to say yes to everything that I kind of put you on the spot. No, no, no. I'll hold off on those. I'll hold off
Okay,
on
good,
those.
good, good.
We
Our
don't need
business partners are sending you an email saying, "Shut
yeah,
up."
right now as
Yeah.
we're live on the podcast. What does joy mean to you kind of right now in your life with where you're at in your career and family and everything?
Well, it means I think it's an acknowledgement that we should always be both in the moment, enjoying what we have and making the most out of what we're currently involved with, while simultaneously preparing for joy and preparing the conditions for joy and preparing an environment for joy. And so it's kind of a little bit of one step back, one step forward. And so it's this combination of, like, always assessing where you are and assessing where you wanna go and what do you need to do to get there. But if you're always just living on where you're going, you're never living where you're at. So I think that's the combination of the 2 things. And, I just I'm, constantly checking in with myself, just, asking myself, like, "How are things going?" And with parenting and with speaking and with the agency, just my own daily contributions to all those activities. And sometimes it takes me a second before I realize, like, oh, I need to, I'm not enjoying this, and I haven't fixed it because I haven't acknowledged it yet.
I love that because like everything I'm doing now, and I think I shared when we had our coffee, is focus on how to inspire people to live, work, and lead with more joy intentionally. And what you're talking about right now is like being intentional about it, not kind of hoping it happens now, like, hey, when this is done or after I've done this, but really checking in on a regular basis and making sure that you're present and enjoying all those moments.
Yeah. Do you want to give you an example of, like, I literally just went through this?
Yeah, I would love it.
To do the things I do, I need to be fairly intentional with my activities, while at the same time allowing myself the opportunity to just discover and be completely improvised in
Right.
how I live, because that's where great joy comes from and that's where discovery comes from.
Right.
So I'm constantly in that balancing act. And so I recently was just feeling like it's just I don't know. I'm not firing on all cylinders. I'm not happy all day. Like, just what's happening. And so as I've done, I take a step back and go, like, okay, let's just assess what we're doing and where great joy comes from and how we're spending our time. Okay.
Right.
So so I'm really old, but I have really young kids. And so what I was noticing was that when I was in town, because I'm on the road a lot, which is its own set of challenges. But when I was at home, what I was doing was I was getting up and I was loving the start to the day, and I was making my kids breakfast and you know, um, um, seeing them off to school. And then I'd work hard all day, kind of here or at the office. And then the end of the day, and I would, the kids would come home and I'd get to spend a little bit of time with my wife and some time with my kids and then take them on to hockey and to baseball and to soccer and to, like, that all that chaos. And then
Right.
8 o'clock would hit and I'd like, oh, I still got some work to finish up, and I'd dial into work. And then by the time 9:30 hit, what I was doing was going, and I felt that the exhaustion was leading me to have to go, "I need to shut this down, and I need to zone out." And so how I was zoning out was social media and, like, consuming content and, all that kinda stuff. And
Right.
so next thing you know, 3.5 TikTok hours later, um, you realize you're not fulfilled, you haven't learned a thing, you're not happy, and you're more tired, and then you get up the next day and you do the same bloody thing all over again.
Right.
And it's my friend Aaron King who talked about this energy thing that people were going through where they feeling they needed to shut it down, but the shutting it down wasn't helping. And so how I define it was like, "Oh, I'm zoning out instead of zoning in on something else."
Right.
And this is what I did. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm literally gonna show it to you.
Oh, no way. Okay. For everyone listening, yeah, tell us what you just showed me. Oh
So I
my
just
god.
showed Greg a set of Roland electric drums, a drum kit, and I'd
Wow.
always wanted to learn drumming, to play the drums. I'd n never picked up a set of drumsticks on anything, and I said, I need to learn how to and I need to zone instead of zoning out, I need to zone in on just something completely different from everything else that I spend my time on." And so I, like, geeked out on what kind of drums and where would I get them from and tried them out and, and then got them. So I've been playing every day. Um, and it's such a completely different experience, and it's that the diversity of the activity and the learning something completely new,
Wow.
of having music kind of pumped into your headphones and lessons being pumped into your headphones and trying it out, and it's really cool.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I did not see that one coming. That wa that's that's sheer creative brilliance. I love that. I've always wanted to learn how to drum, and my parents did not want me to learn how to drum. So they said, "If you practice on this little rubber pad, for an hour a day, then we'll buy you a drum kit." Well, practicing on a little rubber pad is the exact
Yeah.
opposite of
There's
what I
no
wanted to
crash
do.
cymbal on a rubber pad.
You can't do that. There's no noise, there's no fun, you can't really hear the rhythm, you can't necessarily feel it, but anyway,
That's what
I
my wife
never
said.
got
My
to.
wife said, "I don't wanna see it. I don't wanna hear it. Otherwise, go to town."
Yeah, that's pretty much what my parents said. That's amazing. Wow, I love the zoning in versus zoning out too, and that awareness as well. And I think we often, have that tendency when we realize we're doing something that maybe isn't productive or isn't effective or maybe isn't even good for our energy. We have a tendency, I know I do anyway, to beat myself up about it. I'll realize that and I'm like, I wasn't really good use of my time. And instead, I'm trying to say, like, well, that's great awareness. At least I'm aware of it. Like, you kind of got to the point where you were aware of it, and not just aware of it, but you did something with it. Like, you converted that insight to action, which I think is brilliant. It's one thing to have an idea; it's another thing to take into and to have a drum kit in your corner of your
Right, he's
office.
right in my office.
Wow, that's amazing. That's 15 projects that I wanna work on with you. So one
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
drumming with yeah, drumming partner. And then any other small kinda rituals or habits that you do, kinda whether it's at the beginning of your day or throughout the day? I know you said you kinda always check in, but any other things that you do to kinda be intentional with creating and cultivating joy?
I do, consciously look outside my sphere, just like I find I usually learn the most from things I don't expect. So I from music and from comedy and, and reading fiction opposed to nonfiction. And I think we
Right.
normally get so focused on the things we need to do, if if it's a s speech on advertising, then we look to advertising opposed to like, well, no, we can actually learn a lot from the world of theater, and so giving myself that time to step outside, and look at things that don't make sense, that aren't
Right.
natural and,
Right.
zoning in on art or stuff like that. So it's just yeah, I just give myself that time and I just make sure I chalk it up as like, you're not surfing around doing nothing. It's not mindless activity. You're doing it, and there's a certain period of time. But no, otherwise, I mean, because my kids are so young, some of those rituals and stuff are just built into the day because they need to be for them.
Right.
So
Got
getting up with them and making them breakfast and stuff is a great joy. But it also happens that every day because they need it to happen at that time.
it. It's scheduled in.
Yeah,
Scheduled joy. There's nothing wrong with that. I love
yeah.
that. Just having kids is scheduled joy. And they're younger too, 5 and 7?
They're I go yeah, good memory. They're 6 and 8.
Oh, 6 and 8. Okay,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. And what about on the, kind of the professional side? Like, what do you do to create joy in your work, right? For your team and your clients and the people that you work with? What are some of those things?
Well, some of the things I think, and maybe this is the irresponsible creative in me, but we all have that list of to-dos, right? We all have the things that are prioritized, and these are the action items we need to follow up on, and they all have deadlines, and there are people waiting for them, and we never get to the bottom of that list, and just new stuff gets added. So I think there is some aspects of irresponsibility to joy, and that's going, I know this isn't in my list of things, and I don't care, and I'm just gonna do it. And I'm gonna write this thing, or I'm gonna you know, do a strategy for a pitch that we haven't had before, or I'm gonna write a spot that I haven't been asked to write. Like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm really interested in this. I want to see it through. And yeah, and maybe other stuff I'll do at midnight. I'll get to it.
Yeah, right,
But no, I'm gonna do this because I want to do it. And so part of that is the naughtiness of of not living up to your responsibilities. There's a
right,
little bit of mischief joy,
right.
which is great, a great type of joy. Mischief is can be really, really fun. But there's also just giving your time to pursue the thing that you're not supposed to pursue. Um, and 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 a lot of that stuff doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes it does. And you wouldn't have got there had you not given yourself the approval to do it.
Wow, it's like giving yourself permission to yeah, because I mean, I was thinking about that too. It's like we carry around these to-do lists and these priorities, and how do you balance that when there's always something else you could be doing to move the business forward or to maybe even taking better care of your family, whatever that might be, but there's always something else that can always be there can always be something else. I've always tried to balance out, like, what does that even mean to be good enough? Like, not to be good enough, but to do something. And it's because I always thought it sounds so negative. Growing up and then in my career, good enough was, I mean, you got to a point where you didn't care and you just wanted to get it off your plate and out there. Whereas, where do you realize, that point where, wow, that is it's good enough, like, that extra 10 hours or that extra few hours isn't gonna really make it any better. Um, it's just about getting it out there. So I love the it's almost like your hashtag could be like, "Ron Tite did not see that coming." I love the irresponsible joy, mischief joy. My definition of joy is expanding by the minute, with this conversation, so I
But I
love it.
also the caveat there is, um, I also know when I'm in the wrong and there's a danger to it, right?
Okay, got it.
It's kinda like, those, uh, you know, um, I don't really have an addictive personality. If I did, I'd be in shape. But I know that those who are addicts who say like, "Well, it's a slippery slope, like, I can't allow myself that first drink because then it's" so
Right,
there are some things I
right,
know like, "Oh, I can't do that
okay.
because that will put" and, like, I remember when I started my agency and there was an afternoon baseball game, and I thought, I can't go to an afternoon baseball game." And then I went, "Yes, I can. This is my business.
Yeah,
I
right.
can go to an afternoon baseball game." And
Wow.
I went to the afternoon baseball game, and the whole time I felt guilty that I was at an afternoon baseball game.
Right.
And I knew that if I gave myself the permission to do that kinda stuff, I completely write off an entire afternoon to go do that, that I worried that I would do it too often, and then it would get in the way of success, and then, so I know my limits of that, so it's yeah, I believe in the joy of mischief, but everything has its limits.
Yeah, there's gotta be some boundaries there. It's kinda like, for me, it's like watching a movie during the day. That for you, the way you just talked about going to see a baseball game, the Blue Jays, I know you're a huge fan. I think you're up there with maybe possibly the number 1 fan or top 10 maybe, but,
Possibly. Yeah.
but, like, seeing him why going just like, "Hey, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go watch a movie this afternoon." I mean, who does that during the week? Saturday, Sunday for sure, at nighttime for sure. During the day, it's like, it's like that's it's naughty joy. It does. It feels a little bit like that, and I like kinda creating pushing those boundaries a little bit. I'm going out to lunch with, a couple of senior level executives at these 2 companies, and these are guys that I've interviewed for my book, and they know each other, and I was like, "We the 3 of us have to go out to lunch." So we set that up. So we've got lunch planned, but I also, coordinated having them book their afternoons off with their executive assistant,
Oh, it's
and I'm
amazing.
taking them on a surprise activity
No
because who
way.
does that?
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's
and
amazing.
I can tell you because by the time this airs, that will have already happened, but I'm taking him axe throwing, knife throwing, and archery lessons, and I know these guys are hyper competitive. So and they don't know what the surprise activity is, so we're going out to lunch, and then we're gonna head over there. Because who does that?
Yeah,
And it
that's
started
amazing.
off as a joke. I literally it was like I said to their executive assistants, "Just so you know, they won't be coming back to work after lunch." Just, joking, of course.
Yeah,
LOL. LOL's in there. It was a great little banter.
yeah.
And then one of their executive assistants said, "Greg, what were you thinking? Because I could book, his afternoon off." And then I was like, I started thinking, wow. I started typing while I was just kidding. And then I was like, oh my gosh, she's willing to book the afternoon off.
That's
I'm
amazing.
willing to create something special. So Anyway, I think those kind of opportunities to create them because it doesn't happen, often, and I've created some
Yeah.
really fun stuff, to do during that day.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
very cool. Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. And then, hey, on the flip side, what are those things that tend to block joy for you that get in the way of joy, like personally and professionally?
Um, yeah, I mean, sometimes, I overcommit,
Right.
because I like to say yes, and the idea of doing, I've got, like you, 120 projects that I would love to pursue, and I start a little so sometimes when I realize, like, "Oh, it's too much, it's too much." And just the weight of it all can suppress any positive emotions,
Right.
so that can get in the way. Admittedly, like most people, sometimes interpersonal dynamics, while I try to be sunny and positive and everything, those who work with me will tell you that is not always the case. Um,
What? This is news to me.
yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the name of
No,
my
I
next
I
podcast.
I just I do. I can get frustrated, and if
Yeah.
something doesn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, and Um, I'm not the yelling type or anything like that. It's a
Yeah.
very internal thing. I just go away and I'm rather quiet about it. But usually it reflects it's a self-reflection on like, "Oh, I didn't prep them enough, or I didn't brief them better, or, I didn't serve them well, or I didn't," so it's that kind of thing. So it's a self-blame. And not only did it not go well, I'm probably the reason it didn't go well. Um there's not a lot there's not a lot that really I can it's very rare that a speech doesn't go well, like, if a moment on stage back in my comedy days, man, doing a comedy set that doesn't go well, that hurts,
Yeah.
that
Right.
hurts.
Right.
Um,
Silence in the audience.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah.
but when you do enough of it and you've had enough of positive outcomes, then you realize that you don't get to a place of growth and new material and great stuff without some tanking along the way. The old metaphor is, if you want to hit a home run, you got to understand that you're going to strike out.
Yeah.
And if you want to just bunt through life, you're not going to strike out, but you're never going to know the joy and elation of rounding the bases with the visiting team leaving the field.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
and so, yeah, I'm I don't have a problem with failure at all. There's a lot of stuff in my past where that didn't go well. Oh, well.
I love it. And you learn from it and you move on. I think that's a beautiful lesson, especially for kids too, right? Helping to create a space where they have the freedom to kind of make mistakes and not look at them as mistakes, but just like, hey, that's how we learn. I had a coach, Dan Sullivan, amazing man, amazing entrepreneur. And he used to always say, like, that's how we learn. Like, if everything happened the way we expected it to, there'd be no opportunity to grow, learn, expand, or evolve. And I kind of created that glee, like no opportunity for glee or joy. Grow, learn, expand, evolve,
Oh,
right? I mean,
nice. Yeah, yeah.
that's where we kind of get that, from and not to be so hard on ourselves because it didn't go our way, but just like, hey, at least you tried it. At least you made an effort, at least you followed your passion. And then from there, yeah, it didn't work out for a reason and just, continue to move forward. I love
Yeah,
that.
I saw that in the stand-up world, right? Like, there are people who would just they'd get a tight 7 minutes, and they'd never, ever move off those 7 minutes. And
Right.
what a boring existence
Right.
of just trying out the same 7 minutes. Now, I think what I end up getting, uh, efficient at is that there are systems around that. You know, I think embrace failure is one of the biggest lies of modern business, because I think it's more complex than that. And I did a speech, um, and it was for, the Business Council, which was like 100 CEOs. It was in Sarasota, Florida. Chatham House rules, I cannot tell you who was in the room. Um, but it was 100 CEOs, and there was one CEO who was the then CEO, now chair of a very, 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 very large e-commerce company, that we all buy stuff from. And somebody said to him, "We keep hearing about this embrace failure. How do you embrace failure at your company?" And he said, "We don't. We punish it. I'm sorry, but we've built 85 distribution centers. We should know how to do that by now. But I'll tell you what we do is we experiment a lot. And the sole purpose of an experiment is what can you learn from the experiment? So that's why I think that embrace failure thing needs um, a a caveat to it, which is not across the board. No, there's some stuff that you should not embrace failure. There's some stuff you should be able to, as we say in my business, kill it and bill it. Like get it done, get it out, get it perfect. You've done this 4 million times. Do not mess this up. And
Right.
so how that translates for me into speaking is every single speech I have what's called the new two. And the new two is 2 new minutes that I've never done before. Now, the
Okay.
reason I do that way is it allows me to take one quick thought or idea. I can spend 2 minutes on it. I know enough about my own ability that I can improvise what I'm thinking about that 2 minutes on stage, and it's good enough that I will be able to get a read as to whether or not there's something there or not. If the thing tanks, and what I learn is that from that experiment is that it has no place in any speech or book, then guess what? There are 58 other minutes of gold, and that
Yeah.
that audience doesn't even realize that there's been 2 new minutes there because the rest of it was proven stuff. And so I can't
Love it.
just go, the speakers will go like, "I'm trying out a whole new speech." I'm like, "A whole new hour and someone's paying you your fee? That's crazy."
Right.
There's no way. Do you think Chris Rock just goes one night and goes, "Let's shoot an HBO special or a Netflix
Right.
special?" No, he tours it for a year
Yeah.
until he's
Right.
ready for prime time. So, there does
Love
have to
that.
be a system to
Mhm.
how you experiment and how
Got it.
you grow and how you bring in new stuff that can bring you joy and fulfillment. It has to be done responsibly, not irresponsibly.
I love that. And when it comes to your team, how do you find that balance between creating that emotionally safe place to work where they feel free to experiment, but and free to make mistakes, but you're not punishing them for every mistake. Like, is it communicating? Is it all in your values? Is it all about your brand and how you're living your brand and how you're treating each other? Like,
In
how's
some
that
ways.
balance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in some ways,
Okay.
and I think the most important thing is I'm not perfect at it. Like,
Right.
I'm just not
Right.
so many people are like, "Well, what we do is we embrace." Like, yeah, but there's some
Yeah.
textbook stuff, and sometimes I hope I do that, but I'm certainly not perfect. Um, and my team will come to me and say, You said something to somebody," and I was like, "Oh, geez, sorry, I did not, intend for that." But I think there's a couple of things that you can do. One is to always say "we."
Yeah.
So
Got
as
it.
a representative of
Um,
the agency, then it's a we
mhm.
thing, like, "Oh, how
Right.
did we screw this up? How did we as an
Right.
agency?" Because it is a we thing, because even if it was an individual person making an individual decision to do something that was wrong, well, they weren't trained or they weren't informed or they weren't led or, something was about wrong about that moment. And, so I think it's what did we do? How can we fix this? Secondly, it's addressing it in real time, which is, "Hey, that was not the right call. Let's just talk about now opposed to waiting for the 6-month thing." And
Yep.
then I think the third thing, is, well, there's 3 and 4. The third thing is
Mhm.
personally that while I say we for them,
Yeah.
I will say me for me.
Okay. Got it.
Oh,
Owning
did
it.
I mess that up? Am I
Right.
the bottleneck here? But, like, it's like and being totally honest was like, "Oh, geez, don't get me involved. Don't wait for me. I'm gonna screw it up or I'm gonna be a bottleneck." So, no, no, no. So, for my stuff, it's me. The last thing is to acknowledge and celebrate those who do it right so that you go like, "This is
Right.
the type of stuff we're celebrating." So, we have something called the 3 Cs, the 3 Cs of value of collaboration, of commitment, and culture. And what we do is we ask our team who has lived these values, um, over the last couple of months, and then we identify the person and why. And so we're celebrating the behaviors that we wish to see more of.
Right. And reinforcing those. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's like some kind of formula and not that I pay attention to these kind of things too much, but the numbers anyway. But it's like you need to say something positive to your employees 6 or 7, it might even be like 11 times now before you've built up enough trust and earned the right to give them some constructive feedback, regardless of the numbers. I mean, I think it's to your point, it's recognizing them when things are going well. It's not just creating an environment where you're only focusing on what isn't working, right? Which doesn't create a very safe environment. I can only imagine what it's like to be in your energy and not, and again, like you said, you're not perfect and you're not always happy, but it's like you're intentional in wanting to create a great work environment. People do great work and they have fun, which I think is really special and I think is needed.
Yeah, and I know that I don't have to be a part of it for it to happen.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
sometimes the last person they want at that little, after work drink thing or dinner, the last person they want there is me,
Right.
because they wanna vent, they wanna complain, they wanna gossip, they wanna talk about their stuff that's inappropriate to talk in front of me, so I get that I think most of the joy will occur without me in the room,
Right.
which
Wow.
is
That's
difficult for somebody who needs to own every room they walk into. You know what I mean? Like,
And he was a stand-up comedian as well, like, when you've
yeah, that's
gone
right.
through it's like the
What do you mean you don't
opposite for
want me
them.
there?
And I guess that little thing of I used to tell people, like, every time I tell a joke, guaranteed at least one person's gonna laugh, and that's me. That really doesn't help out when you're on stage by yourself if you're the only one laughing, or if you're in your office and you're the only one laughing at your joke, but,
No, but you know what? I will say that, you also have to let yourself amuse yourself. There's
yeah,
some things I just did this yesterday. I was hosting a conference I've done for the last 4 years, and it's the First Responders Mental Health Conference. It's a very serious conference, talking about mental health for those who see and experience trauma every single day in their jobs. And and they've launched something called Warrior Health, which is an online program and resources for people who need help with mental, like, oh, it's really serious stuff. And somebody got up and was presenting about the last year, after it launched and all the visits and stuff. And then I got up and in the moment said, what Mike didn't announce is that as of next week, Warrior Health will be available to the entire cast of The Pit. And then did an impersonation of Dana from The Pit. And it was very clear from the first line that only 3 people got the reference.
right.
I proceeded to do it just for myself.
Right,
I was
okay.
like, "I'm doing it," and I go, "That's okay, only 3 of you got it, you get a life. You gotta get out and watch, see more stuff." Um,
I love it.
so, yeah, sometimes you do it just for your own pleasure.
I love it, and I think it's important to be able to laugh at yourself as well, right? I mean, I think you can't really laugh at someone else or with someone else unless you can laugh at yourself, like creating that kinda safe space, right? Not taking yourself too seriously, which, I know you don't, yeah, which is awesome. Well, I mean, you do and you don't, but and I think it's a pretty awesome balance, from what I've seen and heard.
Yeah, that's like, that, shift in mindset, I think, is probably one of the things that a lot of younger people in their career, like, can be the difference between pain and stress and joy.
Yeah.
A great example of this, I was once doing a speech, and it was, I don't know, 800 people or something like that. And I came out, and I was literally 20 minutes in. And then I looked to the back, to the screen, and I was on iMag, which is you're on the screen, when you turn on, you can see yourself on the screen because it's a big room, and it was a full body shot, and I realized that my zipper was completely down.
Oh, boy.
800 people, I've been
Bar
front and center, on the screen,
barn door was open.
barn door wide open.
Wow.
Now those, who are younger in their career or maybe, hypersensitive, that can be a moment of absolute mortification, like, they're just mortified.
Right.
I looked at that and thought, "Oh, this is a great opportunity." So I walked down right to the front row, knowing that I'm still on camera, that everybody can see and hear me. And I looked at the front row and I pointed at my crotch and I said, "It's been down the whole time?" They go, "Yeah." And I said, "Listen, let me remind you, front row, that you have one job. Your job is that if the speaker comes out and the fly is down and the barn door is open, you tug an ear, you do a little point, You do something to tell me that I'm wide open.
Anything.
Anything. And then turned around, zip, zipped it
Oh,
up, and
man.
then continued, and it was just the way to completely acknowledge it and not panic, and that could have been horrible for everybody involved, but by looking for the joy in the moment opposed to the stress in the moment, it made it great for all of us and made a great experience for them and for me.
I love that. And when you're down at the front row, did you kinda give 'em the teeth check too? Did you say, "Hey, while we're while we're at this, can you just make sure there's nothing in
I
my
got
teeth
boogers?
that's showing up on
Do
the"
I got boogers? Tell me, are there boogers? No? Okay, great, thank you.
the full check, the full check. Oh my gosh, I love that. And now you intentionally keep your fly down, I think you
Yeah.
said in
Yeah,
most of your
yeah,
speeches, yeah.
yeah.
That's those aren't the same 2 minutes, but,
Yeah,
oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. What about, can you share a moment, like, in your life or your career where you've experienced kind of just undeniable full body joy?
Well, I mean, the birth of my children and the marriage to my wife are certainly in that sphere of things. Very certainly full body and complex. The second child was a little bit more complicated because it was 2 days into the pandemic. And so there were, competing realities in my brain of absolute joy and absolute stress. Um, but those are moments that, because I got married very late and I was I'm 55 and my kids are 6 and 8. So, I didn't think being a dad was ever in the cards. I just didn't. Um, and I was totally fine with that, but when that occurred, yeah, that was a moment of joy that it just, those things brought everything, every year and experience of my life into this one moment. Outside of those obvious ones, I think You know, the first time I did stand-up, like, the very first time I did stand-up, which is so weird. Normally, you do, like, 2 minutes at an open mic. The very first time I did stand-up, I, um, I produced the show myself, made myself the headliner, and did a 45-minute headline set.
Wow.
And
You dove in.
I dove in. I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm not doing 5 minutes at an open mic. I already have more material. I know that. I'm more confident." It was really cocky, but I was like, "Nope. I'm not doing it. I booked a show and I produced the show. My Steve Patterson, who's a good friend of mine, who's the host of the Debaters, I said, "I'm not doing the yucks thing, man. I'm not doing that. What else can I do?" And he goes, "You can find a producer who's producing a live show and convince them to put you on even though you've never done it." And
Right.
I just said, "Why don't I just be the producer? Just make myself the headliner." I mean, that's the easy solve on that. So it was an entrepreneurial way into stand up. Um, but there's 2 things that occurred there. One, any stand-up listening will know this, that you never launch 45 minutes of new material on the same night. You just don't do that. It's the new 2
Right.
kinda thing?
Right.
So and you work it and you massage and you get this what the feeling for it. So, launching 45 minutes of brand new material where you're getting the first response and the first confirmation of that the thing that you thought was funny is funny to them too.
Yeah.
So that was really incredible.
Wow.
But it was also because it was the first time I had done it that I don't wanna say building the persona because that takes a longer period of time, but you're like, "Oh, this is how this works when you got a mic and like." So it was just this absolute curiosity paired with, "This is how I think you do it," with immediate and I mean and I'm not selling it as being brilliant. I'm just saying that
Right.
any laughter, regardless of the strength of that laughter, but any laughter to a joke is immediate confirmation that the thing that you thought was good was good.
Right.
And there's so few careers where people like go, "I'm gonna spot weld," and then there's a room full of people go like, "Oh, great job on the spot welding." Like that doesn't happen.
Right.
So that's what's so great about comedy is that you know right away whether you've done your job or not. So all of that stuff together, I mean, it was the peak of elation and confirmation and joy and stress and everything. And then at the end of it, if you can do that for 45 minutes for the first time, you're a stand up now.
Yeah.
And you almost get knighted. And the like, you've now when somebody says, "Can you do a 20-minute set?" You go, "Yeah, oh my god, I did 45 minutes, yeah, I can do a 20-minute set." So I immediately was branded as stand-up after one night.
Wow. Like
And
your masters of comedy. You weren't going in for the undergrad, you're going the
yeah, yeah.
bachelor, you're going for the PhD maybe with 45 minutes.
Yeah, but it's so
Yeah.
weird when you're like, when do you officially cross over to officially become a comedian if you're doing open I don't know when that is.
Right, yeah.
But if you can do a 45-minute headline set to a crowd that really enjoys the material, well, guess what? You're a comedian now.
Yeah, wow.
So that was the weird yeah, it's kind of like, I wonder what open heart surgery is, right? Well, I don't know, I'm gonna open a clinic and do it.
Right.
You know? And once you've done one, triple bypass, you're a surgeon.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my god, I love that. Did you have any idea that, like, in doing that 45 minutes, you would be you'd make that transition so quickly to kind of professional comedian? Was there, maybe a hope, but did you?
No, because I didn't go into it with thinking that. It was
Yeah,
more
got it.
like I was really curious about the craft
Mhm.
and, like, what how does that how do you rent material, and how do you perform, and how do you perfect the performance, and how do you and so, like, the only way to do it is buy the drum set and start playing, you know? And so, yeah, I didn't go into it thinking like, "Oh, I wanna get my own sitcom, and I wanna be on Last Comic Standing," or any there was none of that. There's also the balance of that, which is I remember when the Tim Sims Playhouse, which was the side stage of the Second City, and that's where I did a lot of performing, and when the Tim Sims closed 8 years after I did that very first gig,
Right.
I was asked to host the closing show that was gonna
Oh, wow.
close the whole room down,
Wow.
and which was really an honor because of just the talent that had gone through that room over those 8 years was just it was mind-blowing.
That's amazing.
But I remember my opening line, which was, "This this feels like a high school reunion because all the people in this room grew up here, and like a high school reunion, everybody there's no one in this room is nearly as successful as we thought we were going to be."
Oh my god.
And I was like,
That's the opening.
I said, 8 years ago, I did my first stand-up here. I thought after that, I'm gonna be performing stadiums. Well, fast forward to 8 years later, and I just did a fucking commercial for Pickle Barrel, you know? And, um, and everybody felt that, right? Where
Oh,
everybody
man.
felt like, yeah, you think you're gonna take over the world, and then the reality of Canadian entertainment gets in, and you're like, "Yeah, you're gonna audition for a Pickle Barrel commercial. There you go."
Oh my god, that's amazing. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. I did not know that. That's great. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the name of the podcast we're gonna co-host together. That's Project 16.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, before we wrap up, Ron, I'd love to, what do you want people to get after this conversation? How do you want them to feel? What do you want them to get? Like, kinda what are a few takeaways you'd love for people to kinda pull out of this conversation?
I think the biggest one is just that curiosity is what drives joy, right? The discovery of piquing your interest around being curious about something and then putting a plan in place to explore it. And that is the joy. It's not the outcome typically. Um, but that you also, while there is some joy in mischief and irresponsibility, it's not a life of irresponsibility either. That doesn't go anywhere. So you do have to, yes, be curious, yes, pursue it, less, yes, prioritize some of it, but also be responsible about it, be intentional about it. So that because part of joy is fulfillment, and part of fulfillment is success.
I love it. I agree. It's like there's that expression, it's a Buddhist expression, we journey to the end, but in the end, it's the journey.
Yeah,
Right? It's like, yeah, we're so focused on the outcome and the end result and meeting the milestones, hitting the metrics that we sometimes lose sight of enjoying the process, enjoy. I love how joy's built in. You said that early on in the conversation, enjoy, right? I mean, it is, it's perfect. So yeah, no, thanks for sharing that.
yeah, cool.
Well, Ron, this has been, yeah, an absolutely incredible conversation. Thanks so much for, yeah, your time, your energy, your wisdom, your humor. You have this ability. I know every time I've seen you that I just feel like I'm on the verge of laughing. Because I'm enjoying your energy and just the way that you express things, and I think the way that you show up, right, is that it's just you don't force anything. There's no kind of like agenda, obvious or hidden. You just have this very natural and amazing way of being, I think, just being you, where you bring insight and humor and honesty in a way that for me feels real and it feels accessible, it feels easy, feels comfortable, right? So
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I think it's just my laziness around not wanting to prep and live life.
well, thanks, for your perspective, the way you show up in the world. I mean, you exude joy, and I know it's not about trying, it's just about, it's about being. And I've seen your ripple effect, firsthand, so really special.
Well, thanks, Ray. That's very kind of you, and right back at you. I think this entire podcast is, I think, intentional joy, and it's not just the sole purpose is a ripple effect. So thanks for doing it, and to all of you people out there listening here on the Storm 99.9, thanks for listening in. That's my
And
radio. That's my
everyone
radio.
listening.
That's my radio voice. You listen to the Storm here at 99.9, and now we've got Kenny G. Who's bringing joy.
And from Kenny G to all of you listening, thank you for your time and energy. And if something in this conversation resonated with you, like don't just leave it here. Take one thing, just one and bring it into your day, bring it into your work, into your conversations. Because joy isn't something you wait for. It's a way of being. So thanks for being here. And as always, live, work, and lead with more joy. And we'll see you next time on Joy Squared. Cheers. Thanks for spending this time with us on Joy Squared, where joy multiplies and everything gets better. Remember, joy isn't just something you feel, it's something you create and it's something you pass on. If this conversation sparks something in you, share it because joy is contagious. What we're building here is bigger than a podcast. It's a reminder and a movement that how we live, work, and lead truly matters. Until next time, live with joy, lead with purpose, and never forget to have fun. Keep choosing joy squared. And if you're enjoying the journey, we'd be grateful if you subscribe, like, and share Joy Squared so the ripple keeps spreading.